So usually I don't talk about international stories, but I wanted to talk about this because I agree 100% in countries that you should check who's coming into your country, their passport, who they are, and the criminal record will check their baggage and what they're bringing into the country. But I do think this takes the cake because I don't believe, straight up and straight honest with you, I don't believe that checking somebody's history, take for example YouTube history or Twitter history or Facebook history, whatever it may be, their messages to see what they're saying, etc., is appropriate for any country to do, unless they have reasonable grounds that they're committed a crime, like really committed something heinous. Then fair enough, they can check their social media if they suspect them of committing drug trafficking or whatever. But even just checking only people and stuff, I don't agree with that. But I do agree with strong borders of countries. That governments have the right to know who they're letting in. The people of Ireland, for example, have a right to know who we're letting in to the country as tourists or anything. Just to check their backgrounds, their identity, everything, the criminal record, everything. But I do think this is a bit overkill, to be totally honest, the check in 5 years. And all this is because, in my opinion, is because of a certain country in the Middle East that the Trump administration, along with the Democrats and other people in Congress, that has a huge grip on power in the United States. And they are pretty much pushing for it. That's what's pretty much I think it's all about. Because they don't want people questioning a certain country in the Middle East and questioning their views and questioning why the United States gives a lot of money to that certain country. And that's what I deem it as. Or maybe a few things, JD Vance memes, etc. But that's what I really think it boils down to. Because there's no reason, and I would never accept, as an Irish perspective, even if the Irish government said this, I would rather the Irish government not let people in if they don't have passports, because that's been happening here. People just let in without passports and stuff. That should never happen in any country. If you're a sovereign, independent country, you should never let anybody in without a passport, or without knowing who they are and the whole history, and who they are, and the criminal record, etc. And of course, if they have any illegal items, etc. But for social media posts, I don't agree with any country that does that. I don't even think China would nearly do it, to be totally honest, the check to see what you have on social media. But yeah, it's a joke, and it is something that shouldn't be done. Like, you should be more worried about, are these people coming illegally? Are these people supposed to be here? Are these people, you're running away from a crime, we'll take for example into that. That's the main concern of every state, not what they post on X or what they do on YouTube. It's absolutely ridiculous, and nobody would, no sane tourists from any country would go to the United States. I wouldn't go to the United States in general too, because it's a long distance away from Ireland. But not even that too, I wouldn't go and give up my social media history to be scrutinised from Homeland Security or anything for certain posts, etc., criticising certain governments or criticising different things. Because that's all democracy. That's what the United States is about. You're allowed to criticise. You're allowed to speak. Along with, again, there is limits, of course. If you go into Trent to do something like something extreme, it's something really, really extreme, then fair enough, maybe be looked into a bit. But if you're just saying, I disagree with a certain country in the Middle East, or I disagree with what Donald Trump has done, that's democracy, that's freedom, that's what the whole United States is based on. That you're allowed to disagree, you're allowed to object, you're allowed to speak. And that's what the whole idea of the West is too, that people are allowed to speak. And even though I might not like what people, even take for example in this video, people might disagree, people say, we should know what this person posted on X, we should know everything for the last 5 years. That's fair enough, that's your opinion. But I don't agree with it, and I think the majority of people wouldn't agree with it. Like, if I asked people now, take for example, now and tomorrow, we went out and done a survey on the streets of Galway, take for example, for argument's sake. And we went out and we surveyed maybe 300, 400 people. And we asked them, Irish people, Paddy and Mary and Johnny and Roisin, right, fair enough. We got them and we asked them, should we go to the United States for St. Patrick's Day? And should they might go, but should they, and then we tell them about their social media ban and the social media history. And Mary might not want to go because, she sent a few pictures to her boyfriend, etc. And, might fight in the Homeland Security of it. But long story short, I think the majority of people it's too much hassle, because literally having to get 5 years of social media history ready, first of all, along with then getting a visa or getting your baggage and stuff, it's too much hassle. And no sane tourist would do it, because a lot of tourists wouldn't go for long. Now obviously if you're going from Ireland to the United States, you would stay for a few days, but not many people would stay, because it would be expensive in general. But I don't agree with it, because it's more hassle for people, and it doesn't achieve anything. Like, at the end of the day, it really doesn't achieve anything, unless you find someone that's really committed something heinous. But it doesn't achieve much, like in terms of that, because what I see it as is to protect a certain country in the Middle East. That's the way I see it. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what I presume. Because there's no other reason why the US would do this. Because even if the Irish government did this, I wouldn't agree with it. Any government did this, I wouldn't agree on it. Because you're entitled to speak. It's my fundamental right. It's always been my fundamental right that I support democracy, support people that's free, even though I don't agree with people. I've often said about different things here, about many different topics. Even though people didn't agree with me on social media or didn't agree with me, I would still respect their opinion. They have the right to have their opinion. There's no argument or debate about that. People have the right to express their opinion. Regardless of what it is, to be totally honest, regardless of if it's absolutely the most vile thing imaginable, they still have the right to their opinion. As long as, again, there's a few things you can't just go into buildings and start shouting vile, etc. That's just a common thing. You can't just do that. But I disagree immensely with this, to be totally honest. And I'm all for border security and for protecting countries and protecting their sovereignty and independence. But this is not protecting their sovereignty. It's more kind of like just wanting to, I don't know, infringe on people's... I do think people have a right to privacy too. A lot of people have a right to privacy. If you're a citizen, you have a right to privacy. The government has no authority to come and tell you must show me your papers. Like, you obviously show your papers to the borders, but your whole history and stuff. They have no right to do that. No government has the right, and never will have the right to do that, and never shall have the right. It's the same in Ireland. I would say for the Irish government too. If they were saying getting an only citizen's phone to look at their phone, they need a warrant. They can't just barge into somebody's house and take their phone and laptop and start rifling through it. Nobody can do that. Nobody has the right to do that. But that's just my opinion. Again, as I say, as an Irish person, I'm not an American citizen. But I'm just saying, in my perspective, if I was going to the United States, I wouldn't go. Because I wouldn't go in general, probably, but I wouldn't go definitely with this. And I don't think many Irish people would. But yeah, I do agree with it, because it's not achieving anything. It'd be different if I could see it was achieving something. But there's not. It'd be different if they were saying we're going to do double checks at the border. So, say for example, you go and do double checks when you go into the country. They check you 3 or 4 times the passport to make sure you're not wanted or anything. I'd be like, fair enough, that's understandable, that there's 6 or 7 checks. So there's loads of checks, there's loads of hoops to go through to try and get there, to make sure if you have to fill in a questionnaire or something like that. But this is a bit too much. That's what I see. It's a bit too much, and there's no justification really behind it. Because it's not really protecting the United States. If somebody's like posting memes about JD Vance and stuff, fair enough. But it's not an issue for the United States government to worry about. It's something that they should be more worried about other stuff. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.